Anthony Smith calls the fans stupid in his most recent string of ridiculous comments. Today, we're going to take a look at the most delusional fighter on the UFC roster. Stick around to hear my thoughts. I'm Wyatt, and this is Fight Society. So here we have Anthony Smith at UFC 301 Media Day today calling the fans stupid.
Fans are stupid. Like they are. Like, you guys write an article and they don't read the article. They just read the headline and they just make up the rest in their head.
He says that the fans read a headline and make up the rest in their head. Now, I don't know if he understands this. Maybe the hits to the head, 19 losses is quite a bit, but he says things on podcasts. He's on a podcast weekly. We get clips all the time of his dumb hot takes. This is not fans elaborating on a headline. This is fans listening to Anthony Smith word for word.
Like, if they actually read it, almost everything I say makes a lot of sense.
Everything he says makes a lot of sense, guys.
Every once in a while, maybe I have some crazy takes, but it's not that often. And honestly, me and my friends play a game. Like, what kind of crazy shit can I say to see what the fans will say?
Cap, all right? Anthony Smith and his friends do not play a game to see what kind of crazy shit can he say to make the fans upset. And also, what did he say 15 seconds before that? He says, everything I say makes a lot of sense. But then right after, me and my friends play a game of how crazy the shit I can say is. So 15 seconds earlier, what'd you say?
Rest in their head. Like, if they actually read it, almost everything I say makes a lot of sense. Every once in a while, maybe I have some crazy takes, but it's not that often. And honestly, me and my friends play a game. Like, what kind of crazy shit can I say to see what the fans will say?
Everything that I say makes a lot of sense, followed up by me and my friends play a game of what kind of crazy shit can I say. I swear it's got to be a troll job to get attention at this point because he's got no personality.
Like, then they just play into it. So it is what it is. But they can't separate me as an analyst and me as an athlete. So
the fans can't separate you from an athlete and you as an analyst because you openly compare your skills to people. You compare your skills to Alex Pereira. You compare your skills to Jon Jones. The reason that the fans don't separate them is because you don't separate them. You know what he does too that drives me absolutely insane is that he says things like the fans are stupid and he says like super hypocritical things, but he says it in this little like timid bitch voice that makes it sound like he's being smart about it or that he's not being aggressive, but it's the most passive aggressive shit ever. Here he is in the same interview.
I think I just had to make some mental adjustments and just sit back and kind of figure out what I want to do and why I still do this. And
he says that he had to make some mental adjustments, but later on we'll see that his definition of making mental adjustments is finding more excuses for his losses.
Where I'm at in my own head makes a big difference on my performances. And I'm in a great place. I've done the work. I've spent time with my therapist and worked on those, all that stuff that's going on in my brain. And I feel good.
He says he worked on the stuff that's going on in his brain. Let me tell you, brother, that is CTE. Khalil Roundtree inflicted CTE. And here we have, and I've mentioned how bad the MMA media is. Here we have him being absolutely glazed by the MMA media saying, why are the people so hard on you in the comments?
I want to ask you this one as well. Why do you think people are so hard on you specifically? Because you see a lot of chatter online of people saying,
right,
Anthony Smith on paper, but I think it's just you being confident in yourself. Whereas every other fighter is confident in themselves and is outspoken about it, they get encouraged. But for some reason, you seem to get a lot of flack for it. Why do you think that is?
Fans are stupid.
So there's his excuse. So he's confident in his skills, which are very clearly mid. He's like 35-19 in his career. That's why we clown him. And on top of that, he's delusional about his skill set, where he's saying that he beats Alex Pereira, Jon Jones isn't that good. And yes, he did say that. We'll pull that up in just a second. This is him on the Believe You Me podcast talking about that he beats everybody in the division. And this is shout out, this clip is from Lucas Tracy.
Maybe I'm a bit inconsistent at times, but if I show up, I'll beat everybody in the division. And I don't give a who gets mad about that.
He says, if I show up, I beat everybody in the division. This is like the pro MMA fighter equivalent of the guy at the bar that goes, no, I just see red and bodies drop. You don't understand. Here he is with another glazing MMA media member talking about how he's not focused on a title shot anymore.
Thinking about getting the title shot and what your path would be was actually hurting you. Was that kind of an accurate quote? And if so, like, what, can you elaborate on that a little more?
Yeah, it's just blinded me, bro. It's just blinded me. I'm so obsessed with it. And so I had a real good conversation with DC earlier today. And it was really what it was about was just it consuming me. And that's good because you need to be selfish and you need to be, completely dialed in to be successful at this level. But sometimes you can be so obsessed with it that it becomes like a fault. Like I'm almost carrying an anchor with me. Like it changes the way that I fight. It changes the way that I think leading up to a fight. So I'm just done worrying about it. That doesn't mean I don't want it. I'm done consuming myself with.
He's done consuming himself with becoming a world champ. I thought everybody was here to get paid and win a belt. I thought that's what we were here for. Aside from that, winning fights, becoming champ, that's the best way to get paid the most. So we'll come around to that later, though. I have a little bit of a theory as to why he might be moving on from his title shot contention, aside from it taking him 19 losses to realize he's not a title contender. Here he is on Luke Thomas's podcast on Morning Combat, saying that Jon Jones is not only beatable, but just straight up that he's not that good.
I just didn't show up, and Jon Jones is beatable. He's very beatable. I'm going to get roasted online for this, but he's not that good.
The best fighter of all time, undefeated, one of the longest title reigns in history, would have had the longest title reign in history if it wasn't for his drug tests and his other stuff. He's just not that good, guys. The best fighter of all time. He's just not that good. But hold on, Anthony. I'll let you cook.
That's an interesting quote. Yeah,
he's pretty fucking good.
I appreciate that, again, this is not corporate MMA media. This is, Luke Thomas. This is not the people that are at the media days glazing every fighter because they're so fired up about being next to these fighters. Luke Thomas just straight up says he's pretty fucking good, and that's the truth.
Like if you take his individual skill sets and you take them away, each one of those things are not a problem. It's when you put them together and he puts it into the full package that it's the problem.
Oh, right. So if you take Jon's individual skill sets, what he said is not necessarily wrong. Jon is not like an elite kickboxer or a world-class wrestler or has the best jiu-jitsu on the planet. But this is not a jiu-jitsu competition. It's not a boxing match. It's not a kickboxing fight. It's not a wrestling tournament. It's an MMA fight. And so how well you mix the martial arts directly determines how good of a mixed martial arts fighter you are.
His fight IQ is not crazy high. He's well coached and he does what he's told very, very well. Like if Winklejohn, when I fought him, if Winklejohn wasn't saying anything, Jon goes into a holding pattern. His holding patterns is the same. It's his stance switches, it's the oblique kicks, it's the front kicks to the body. And then once they start talking in code, then Jon goes and does what he's supposed to do. And then he comes back to his holding pattern. He doesn't actually make any decisions on his own.
I'll let you guys decide about that one. But apparently Jon listening to his coaches makes him not a good fighter.
He's very well.
Not that good. My apologies.
Okay. And that's a credit. And that's a credit to him.
Yeah, I was going to say also that's
a credit to him.
Well, yeah, isn't there something a little bit good to say about that he hate the coach,
I'm not saying like
the coach
it's a
and the
negative.
fighter are listening to one another.
Yeah, I don't think it's a negative, but it's.
I mean, and his chin and willpower and
he's a dog for
recuperative
sure.
ability.
He's a dog.
He's a 10 out of a 10.
But if you take his boxing,
I'm glad that there's actually people that are willing to be face to face with these delusional ass fighters and straight up tell them the truth. This coping shit that fighters like Anthony Smith does. This is the type of podcast I wish Ronda Rousey would have went on. They would have been like, "Hey, dog, that's not true."
And
he's a dog for
recuperative
sure.
ability.
He's a dog.
He's a 10 out of a 10.
But if you take his boxing and just like if Jon and I were to just box, I don't think he's the GOAT. Like I think,
yeah, because he's not the GOAT boxer. He's the GOAT MMA fighter, and he whooped your fucking ass. Jesus Christ, the coping on this is insane. It's like I lost a world title fight in MMA. He whooped my ass in MMA. But if we fought in something else, if I take away his skill set, it's even. Fair game. It's like, Jesus, are you an MMA fighter or not, dude?
We have a very competitive striking match. We're just doing no-gi jiu-jitsu. Like, I don't think Jon Jones beats me in a jiu-jitsu match. Wrestling, he probably wins that. But it's not the individual skill set that he has. It's the way that he puts it together. It's his range and his distance management.
Yeah, it's mixed martial arts. But hey, man, whatever helps you sleep at night. And here's the thing. I don't even think he necessarily deserved the title shot that he got against Jon. If you look here, he had 3 wins leading up to the fight with Jon Jones. The first one, he knocked out Rashad Evans in a minute with a knee. And Rashad Evans was in the middle of a 4 fight losing streak. And that happened to be the 5th one before he retired. This was 38-year-old Rashad Evans on a 4 fight losing streak. And then he beat Shogun Rua in a minute and a half, who was coming off of 3 middle of the pack wins. Old Nogueira, Corey Anderson's not a bad win, and Gian Vellante, middle of the pack wins. And then he beat Volkan Oezdemir, who is actually, so he had one impressive win before getting the Jon Jones fight where he got absolutely dominated. And then he goes in there, gets dominated, and comes out on the other side saying he just wasn't that good. And then if you look back to the point that he says about, I beat everybody in the division. If you look back at it, he beat Devin Clark, who's got just a bum. Jimmy Crute, who is not active anymore, and it was by a doctor stoppage. Then he beat Ryan Spann, who has proven to be a fringe ranking light heavyweight. And he beat him twice, once by split decision. But then he gets mauled by Magomed Ankalaev, outpointed and out-techniqued by zero technique, zero chin Johnny Walker. Split decision to Ryan Spann. And then gets his soul taken from Khalil Roundtree. So, and these are not top of the food chain light heavyweights, okay? Except for Magomed Ankalaev. These are fringe ranking and middle of the pack light heavyweights. We'll see what happens with Khalil Roundtree and Jamal Hill at UFC 303. But these are not impressive performances, and they're not against impressive competition. So, I mean, with the exception of Ankalaev. So his understanding of his own skill is astonishing. And it's just insane to me how delusional these guys can be. I understand confidence, but this is dangerous for your health delusional. This is dangerously stupid. And here he is talking about Alex Pereira and his limited skill set. Same thing he would say about Jon Jones.
He has a very limited skill set. He's very, 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 very dangerous at one thing. And he's mediocre at the rest. But like, instead of making it seem like I'm talking shit about him, I'm building him up. That's amazing. That's absolutely amazing. But because of the matchups and some circumstances, like Jan Blachowicz is a much better mixed martial artist. He proved that in the first round. I don't think he adjusted to the altitude of Salt Lake City, because then he was gassed and was kind of reserved to standing in front of Alex after that because he couldn't get a takedown because he was tired. Like, let's just call it what it is. Like, I'm not knocking Alex for that. I think he did a great job staying safe. I thought that he showed a little bit of improvement in his grappling.
The coping is incredible. Saying that Alex Pereira is average, mediocre, but then says, hey, I'm saying this to build him up. And the fact of the matter is he's dangerous. What about Alex Pereira adjusting to the altitude? You can't just give one guy a pass and then use that same pass to criticize the other guy who fought under the same conditions. But like I said, I do have a theory as to why Anthony Smith is still fighting, especially if he's not in this for a title shot anymore. We can see down here, and this was his fight against Johnny Walker. We can see right here, $200,000 to show. I get it, man. $200K to show. You just show up, get your ass beat, take home $200K, still get paid for your commentary gigs, still get to train and do the thing that you really enjoy with and still be a part of the sport you love. $200,000. You're getting paid more than double the show money of the guy that beat you. And then you're getting paid 4 times the show money of the guy that was in the main event, that won the main event. So that's my actual opinion here, is that Anthony Smith is a journeyman, gatekeeper, not elite fighter that can't accept that other people like Alex Pereira came into the sport, very quickly rose to the top of it in a sport that it took him 55 fights and 19 losses to be very average at. for his level. And he's making $200,000. I get it. He's insecure about the fact that he never reached the top of the sport, and he's making a good bag while doing it. So I think that that's why Anthony Smith is still fighting. Now, let me know your guys' thoughts down below. Anthony Smith is the most delusional fighter of all time, maybe besides Ronda Rousey. If you guys have a defense for him, let me know down in the comments. I want to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching this video. Make sure to like and subscribe. If you want access to extra content aside from my regular videos, click the link in the description down below to become a channel member and get access to members-only live streams and other bonus perks. Or click the join button on our channel homepage. And if you're interested in some non-MMA content from me, check out my weekly podcast, the Hissyfit podcast, and check out my personal channel, Wyatt's World. I'll have them both linked in the description down below. Go watch this suggested video, and I'll see you next time.